Hi, this is Alex Behrens with Maple Leaf Coffee Roasters in Roselle. I'm here today to talk about our October Club coffee, a wash processed coffee from Mexico. Check it out. So, quick reminder on what our coffee club program is. Every month we bring in a members only coffee that we roast 3 different ways and share a lot of extra information about the coffee itself, the roasting process, and who this coffee might be a really great choice for. The only way to get access to this coffee is to become a member of the club. We'll have information in the show, the episode link below. If you take a look at that, we'll be happy to entertain any questions you have about the club. So this month we have a wash process coffee from Mexico, which is not dissimilar from some of the other Mexican coffees that we've had that we've sold to the general public before. Mexican coffees are generally known to be creamy, easy on the stomach, mellow, very easy to roast, and this one is no different. So what I've taken this opportunity to do is to do another experiment with some of the roasting, this time with the medium and the light roasts options again this month, to try to see and feel out what a different roasting process that gets to the same final roast level kind of does to the flavor of the coffee, and to share that information with our club members. So nothing super exotic about the coffee this month. As I said, wash processed coffee from Mexico, really easy to roast, easy to drink, has some interesting flavors to it, a little bit different than the Mexican coffees that we sometimes will feature and sell on our shelves. But this month, it's more about the experimentation of the roasting process for the light and the medium than it is about the coffee itself. So this month we did a experiment again with the light and medium. We got both the light and medium roast coffee options this month to roast about the same level final temperature of each other. So within a couple degrees difference, so not too much different in terms of the color or the look or the feel. But the big difference in the way the light was roasted versus the medium is that the medium version spent about an extra minute, about 10% extra longer, or double, practically speaking, longer in the development phase. And as a consequence, it has a richer, thicker, more of a roasty feel to it, even though it is still a medium roast and it's very, very close in final temperature to the light than the light roast. The light roast I kind of roasted very similar to the way that I would roast an African coffee, to try to move it as quickly as possible through the development phase and into the first crack stage, so that it has a little bit of a sharper kind of a edge to it that you would normally see out of a more acidic coffee. So the interesting part, as I said, the medium roast does have more of a roasty feel to it. In fact, I roasted it very similarly to the way that I roast our Colombian coffee that we put into our espresso blend, which I try to roast in a way that's a little bit different than the medium roast that we normally sell on our shelves, something that has a little bit more of a roasty tone to it to give it a bit of extra body, a bit of extra heft. And I think that's the experiment for this month that I'm really excited for people to try once again, to see what a different technique on the same coffee, roasted almost the same to the same level, can kind of produce on the flavor. The dark roast I also roasted in a very similar way that we do for our dark roast, so nothing super exotic here. The fun part about a Mexican coffee as a dark roast is that you do get the kind of darker, roastier flavors out of it, but you don't get a big body coffee. You still get the kind of mellow, creamy flavor that you will see out of Mexican coffee that's very easy on the stomach still and doesn't have burned or bitter flavors. The only quirk with the dark roast this month in terms of the way it was roasted was we didn't take it all the way into second crack. Most of the time, dark roast coffees for us here at Maple Leaf get into the second crack, either touching it or a little bit beyond that. And this time we got really close to that, but we didn't actually get into the second crack territory. So it is a darker roast, both in appearance and flavor, but from a roast standpoint, it didn't get to that part of the roast where we were getting the second crack out of the beans themselves. So some fun things to talk about in the flavors for all three. So the light roast this month has a really fun kind of caramely, lighter, a little bit of a sharp feel to it. You'll also get a little bit of a creamy consistency to it as well. Not as heavy of a cream feel as you normally see out of the straight medium roast Mexican coffees that we do, but you will get the kind of lighter feel to it overall, but not a super tea-like kind of flavor out of it as well. So there's a nice honey, chocolatey feel to it in addition to the lighter feel. And if you go searching for it, there's a little bit of like a vegetable, a little bit of an earthy tint to it. It's kind of subtle and not noticeable. You'll taste it more as the coffee cools, but it won't be there in the first couple of sips, especially when it's hot. The medium roast in comparison, because of that roast technique that we've mentioned earlier, has a heavier, thicker feel to it in comparison to the light. So you'll get a little bit of a smoky feel, which is a different kind of feel for a medium roast. And you'll still get the kind of creamy, chocolatey body to it that the Mexican coffees normally do for mediums, but it'll have a heft to it that the light will not, while still not being a super heavy coffee. There's a little bit of a kind of a nutty feel to it as well. There's a kind of a hazelnut, a little bit of a sugary scent to it as well in the grounds. And beyond that, most of what you'll get out of the flavor is, in comparison to the light, a bit more of a mellower feel overall. Just a kind of a richer feel in your mouth overall that if you're a person that normally drinks a light roast and maybe wants to try something a little bit heavier but not too heavy, this medium roast would be a really great way for you to maybe tiptoe into a more roastier territory for a coffee while staying away from something that's a dark roast entirely. As for the dark roast, this is an interesting coffee to roast dark because a lot of times when we roast a coffee darker, you'll generally taste more of the way that the coffee is roasted rather than the coffee itself. And that's no different here. You will get more of a roasty feel out of the dark roast, but due to the Mexican coffee characteristics, there'll still be that kind of creamy, chocolatey feel to it with a little bit of a cherry hint that you normally see in some of the darker roast coffees in general. While it's not going to be a big body, it's probably medium body, still easy on the stomach. If you're a person that likes to try a darker roast coffee, but is a little bit turned off sometimes by the idea of drinking something burned or bitter or really heavy on the stomach, this might be a really great time to try a dark roast in comparison instead of medium or light roast because of that different flavor and overall feel. So I think I enjoyed this dark roast quite a lot for me because of the novelty. Because we generally don't do Mexican coffees as dark roasts on the shelf here for the general public, it is fun to see what a dark roast of a Mexican coffee kind of turns into. You still retain a little bit of the nuttiness, the creaminess, the overall chocolatey feel to it, but you get this nice addition with some of the darker roast flavors that you would normally see from any other coffee, especially Central American coffee as well. So I think that this is a really great coffee this month. The two experimentation coffees for light medium are fun options for folks to try. And if you're interested in giving the club a shot to try out coffees like this and others, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to get in touch. And until then, I'll see you next month for another club coffee at Maple Leaf. Catch you soon.